Good evening, Africa. Good evening across the world. I am here this evening again with another good news that will brighten your day from your number one trusted channel, Talk Africa 36. So, brothers and sisters of Africa, listen closely. Tonight, history has been shaken. Burkina Faso has signed a defense pact worth $25 billion. Echoes, $25 billion. With the Republic of Turkey. Not millions, not promises, but $25 billion in real investment, in cutting-edge drone technology, in power that will protect our skies, our borders, and our dignity. For too long, Africa was told it must beg for safety. Tonight, we say no more. This pact is not just a deal, it is a roar, a thunder that the world did not see coming. 25 billion reasons to believe that Africa is awake, Africa is rising, and Africa will never kneel again. People of Burkina Faso, tonight, the future has landed in our hands. With this $25 billion defense pact with Turkey, our nation steps into a new era. This is not just about drones. It is about jobs for our youth, technology for our engineers, security for our farmers, and pride for every child. No longer will we be at the mercy of others to defend our skies. From Ouagadougou to the farthest village, this deal means protection, opportunity, and dignity. Burkina Faso is not just standing, we are flying higher than ever before. And the world must finally understand, the Lion of Africa does not borrow strength, it builds its own.
Brothers and sisters of Africa, citizens of the world, patriots who have waited generations for this moment of reckoning, today I stand before you with news that will echo through history like a drumbeat of freedom, like the roar of a lion awakening after centuries of slumber. The announcement I am about to deliver is not just a headline, not just a transaction, not just ink on paper, it is the beating heart of a new Africa declaring to the world, we will no longer be spectators in our own destiny. Burkina Faso has signed a defense pact worth $25 billion with the Republic of Turkey, a monumental agreement centered on the mastery of drone technology, a deal that has shaken the very foundations of Western strategy in Africa. Pause for a moment. Let the weight of this settle in your spirit. $25 billion. A partnership not with the same colonial powers who once plundered us, but with a nation outside that circle of oppression, a nation that has itself defied the West and carved a sovereign path forward. And what is the essence of this partnership? Defense, drones, technology, power. For too long, Africa's skies have been watched by foreign satellites, our borders policed by forces not our own, our militaries crippled by dependence on foreign-made arms that came with chains attached. But today, with one stroke of courage, Burkina Faso has declared, we will no longer fight with borrowed swords. We will no longer guard our sovereignty with weapons made by those who wish us weak. We will now wield the sharp edge of technology as our shield and spear, and we will do so on our own terms. For decades, Western nations dictated Africa's defense capabilities. They sold us weapons at inflated prices, then withheld spare parts at the moment of crisis. They offered us training while embedding spies in our ranks. They gave us outdated equipment while boasting of generosity. They treated African armies not as protectors of sovereign nations but as foot soldiers in their geopolitical games. And whenever an African nation dared to dream of building its own defense industry, sanctions fell like thunder, destabilization followed like a shadow, coups were engineered, leaders were removed. They feared a strong Africa more than they feared any enemy, because they knew, a continent that can defend itself is a continent that can never again be enslaved. And now Burkina Faso has broken that cycle. $25 billion in collaboration with Turkey, a nation that itself has risen from the margins of Western control to become a global leader in drone warfare. Look to the skies of today's battlefields. In Libya, in Syria, in Nagorno-Karabakh, even in Ukraine. The drones that changed the tides of war were not from Washington, not from Paris, not from London, but from Ankara. Turkey mastered a technology that even NATO once dismissed, and today its drones are feared and respected across the world. And now, that expertise, that technology, that innovation will take root in Africa. Burkina Faso will not merely import drones. It will build them, learn them, master them, and deploy them as guardians of its sovereignty. Do you see what this means? This is not merely a purchase, it is a partnership. This is not charity, it is investment. This is not dependency, it is capacity building. For $25 billion, Africa will not be buying toys for war. It will be buying knowledge, factories, training centers, the seeds of an indigenous defense industry. Burkina Faso will train its engineers, its pilots, its strategists, its manufacturers. African hands will build African drones. African pilots will fly them. African skies will be protected by African technology. The West did not see this coming. They thought Burkina Faso would remain forever under the shadow of Paris, forever bound to outdated contracts, forever begging for security assistance. They thought drone technology would forever remain outside Africa's grasp, drip-fed only in token doses when it served their interests. But here we are, standing before a reality they cannot contain, an African nation, small in size but great in courage, daring to step into the future with an ally that defies their monopoly. And this deal, my brothers and sisters, is not isolated. It is a signal to the world. It says to every African capital from Bamako to Niamey, from Accra to Addis Ababa that the path of sovereignty is not blocked. It is open, if only we have the courage to walk it. If Burkina Faso can strike a $25 billion defense pact, why not Mali? Why not Niger? Why not Ghana? Why not Nigeria, South Africa, Tanzania? The chains are not in the soil. They are in the mind, and once the mind is free, the hand can build wonders. Think of the ripple effects. A drone technology hub in Burkina Faso means research collaborations with universities, innovation hubs for young African scientists, job creation for thousands of engineers, technicians, and strategists. It means African militaries can patrol their borders without waiting for French jets, monitor their resources without begging for American satellites, strike against terrorists without depending on European troops. It means African skies, for the first time in modern history, will belong fully to Africa. But let us also speak the truth. This deal is not only about security, it is about pride, it is about dignity. It is about telling the world that Africa is not a passive consumer of second-hand goods, but a producer, a creator, a partner of equals. It is about showing our children that when they study engineering, robotics, artificial intelligence, they are not dreaming in vain, they are preparing for the real work of building a powerful continent. Make no mistake, the backlash will come. Even as I speak, you can imagine the boardrooms in Washington, the ministries in Paris, the strategy tables in Brussels. Panic, anger, fear. They will label this deal reckless. They will accuse Turkey of destabilizing. They will whisper of sanctions, of embargoes, of punishments. They will not forgive Burkina Faso for daring to step out of the cage, but let them rage. Because Africa is no longer asking for permission. We are no longer waiting for approval. We are no longer afraid of their threats. Burkina Faso has lit the fire, and that fire will spread. The age of Africa's submission is over. The age of Africa's sovereignty has begun. And what does this mean for the youth listening tonight? It means that the skills you acquire, the dreams you nurture, are not wasted. You are the future engineers of African drone factories. You are the future strategists of African defense councils. You are the pilots who will guard African skies, not in borrowed uniforms, but in the proud insignia of your nations. It means that when you see a drone soar over Ouagadougou, over Bamako, over Niamey, you will not see the flag of France, of America, of Britain. You will see the flag of Africa. This deal is also a lesson in courage. Think of it, a small landlocked nation, often dismissed as powerless, standing firm, and signing a deal that nations 10 times its size feared to attempt. Burkina Faso has taught us that sovereignty is not about size, not about GDP, not about population. It is about will. It is about the courage to say no to dependency and yes to destiny. And so, as the ink dries on this $25 billion defense pact, let us not see it as an end, but as a beginning of Africa's military independence, a beginning of Africa's technological leap, a beginning of Africa's new story, a story no longer written in the offices of Paris and Washington, but in the streets of Ouagadougou, in the labs of African engineers, in the courage of African leaders. The message is clear. The age of borrowed wings is over. Africa will now soar on its own. That, my brothers and sisters, is the voice of the future, the defiance of the present, and the revenge of the past. Burkina Faso has signed a deal worth $25 billion with Turkey for drone technology, and the world will never see Africa the same way again. Ladies and gentlemen, if the first shock to the Western world was the announcement itself, then the second tremor came in the form of what this deal truly represents: a tectonic shift in the global defense balance, driven not by Europe, not by the United States, not by NATO, but by Africa, and specifically by Burkina Faso. For decades, Africa was a silent consumer of defense imports, shackled by dependency, perpetually caught in a cycle where we were told what to buy, how to buy, and when to buy. But now, under the visionary leadership of Captain Ibrahim, we see something unprecedented: an African state no longer a consumer, but an active architect of its own defense, with the power to dictate terms, shape the battlefield of tomorrow, and chart its course without bending to external pressures. The $25 billion pact with Turkey is not just a transaction. It is a declaration of sovereignty written in ink too bold to erase. Imagine for a moment thousands of highly sophisticated drones produced under joint African-Turkish manufacturing units, not only flown in the skies of Burkina Faso but exported across West Africa, from Niger to Mali, from Guinea to Senegal. We are talking about a drone ecosystem designed with African conditions in mind, crafted for our climate, our terrains, our unique challenges. No longer will Burkina Faso's military look to second-hand machines from Europe or stripped-down exports from Washington. Instead, we are seeing the rise of tailor-made technology, built in partnership but rooted in African command, and make no mistake, the West is watching, and they are not pleased. Within hours of the announcement, major newspapers in Paris, London, and Washington scrambled with headlines dripping in disbelief and alarm. Analysts called it a dangerous precedent, fearing that if one African nation can strike such a sovereign defense deal, others will follow, creating a domino effect of independence they cannot control. They fear the ripple effect more than the drones themselves, because they know sovereignty is contagious, and Burkina Faso has just ignited a fire that will spread across the continent. Let us pause and remember, this is not happening in a vacuum. We must look at the broader geopolitical chessboard. Turkey has positioned itself as an alternative to the West, a nation willing to empower partners rather than exploit them. Ankara has shown Africa respect, something the former colonizers never managed. While the West sent troops and aid packages wrapped in conditions, Turkey came with engineers, strategists, and long-term partnerships. And now this 25 billion pact is the loudest statement yet that Africa will no longer be bullied into arms deals designed to keep it dependent. Picture the symbolism of this pact: drones rising over the Sahel, not as tools of surveillance imposed by foreign militaries, but as guardians controlled by African hands. These machines, equipped with precision-guided systems, advanced reconnaissance capabilities, and AI-powered targeting, will tilt the balance against insurgencies and destabilization campaigns that for years crippled the region. For the first time, West African nations can wage war on their own terms, with technology that rivals the most advanced powers in the world. And in Ouagadougou, the atmosphere is electric. People poured into the streets, not in fear but in celebration. They see in this pact not only the strengthening of their nation's defenses but also the dawn of dignity restored. For decades, Burkina Faso was painted by Western narratives as a poor, fragile, landlocked nation with little to offer. Today it stands as a fortress of innovation, striking deals that global superpowers did not anticipate, reshaping alliances, and dictating its destiny with an unshakable voice. But this story runs deeper. Let us ask, why drones? Why now? Why Turkey? And why $25 billion? The answer lies in the new warfare of our century. Wars are no longer fought with just boots on the ground, they are fought with intelligence, precision, speed, and control of the skies. Understands this better than most. He has studied how small nations, from Azerbaijan to Qatar, leveraged drone technology to secure decisive victories and carve new geopolitical relevance. He knows the lesson of Nagorno-Karabakh, where Turkish drones turned the tide of a war in weeks, and he has drawn the conclusion: Burkina Faso must never again fight blind, never again depend on others to defend its people, never again watch sovereignty stolen by superior weapons supplied to its enemies. This is why the pact is historic. It represents preparation, foresight, and a refusal to be vulnerable. The drones of tomorrow will patrol the borders of Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali, providing security against both insurgents and foreign-backed destabilizers. But beyond defense, these drones symbolize something greater. They represent African ownership of advanced technology. Because the deal is not just about imports. It is about transfer of knowledge, the establishment of joint factories, and the training of African engineers and pilots. This is how dependency dies and sovereignty thrives. Tonight, as the world debates this seismic shift, Burkina Faso and Turkey have quietly set into motion a program that will resonate for generations. This deal is not about weapons, it is about dignity. It is about a small nation standing tall in a world that expected it to kneel. It is about proving that when Africa refuses to compromise, even superpowers must recalculate, and as Captain Ibrahim himself declared during the signing, his words now echo across the continent: we will not rent our sovereignty, we will build it. We will defend it, and we will pass it on. My friends, history is unfolding before our eyes, and Burkina Faso has just taken its place at the forefront of a new era in Africa. As we reach the end of this historic address, let us pause and recognize the magnitude of what has been set into motion. The signing of a 25 billion defense pact between Burkina Faso and Turkey is not merely a transaction, it is the beginning of a new era. For generations, Africa's skies were open for intrusion, its lands vulnerable to exploitation, its people told that strength and security were luxuries reserved for others. But tonight, that chapter ends. This pact, anchored in drone technology and strategic defense, is more than a military agreement. It is a declaration of sovereignty. It is Africa saying, "Never again shall we fight with weapons borrowed from those who wish to keep us weak. Never again shall our borders be defined by outsiders who neither know our struggles nor respect our dignity." When Captain Ibrahim stood side by side with our Turkish brothers to sign this pact, the pen he held was not just writing his name on paper. It was engraving a message into history. Africa will no longer kneel. Africa will rise, not in whispers, but in thunder. And the thunder has been heard tonight. But let us also be clear, this moment is not for Burkina Faso alone. It belongs to Mali, to Niger, to Guinea, to every African nation that has said enough to colonial dictates and neo-imperial orders. The wings of these drones will not only guard our skies, they will guard our hope, our labor, our children, and our dignity. Each flight is a reminder that we are not waiting for others to secure us. We are securing ourselves. And yet, brothers and sisters, the meaning goes even deeper. This pact is not only about weapons, it is about knowledge. Embedded within these agreements are pathways for African engineers, African scientists, and African technicians to learn, to master, and to create. This is not dependency. This is partnership. This is not servitude. This is sovereignty. Every young boy and girl who once dreamed of becoming an engineer but felt that the doors of technology were locked, this pact hands them the keys. The West, who has long believed Africa would always look outward for protection, now faces a truth it did not expect. Africa has chosen its own partners, on its own terms, and for its own destiny, and make no mistake, they did not see this coming. But my brothers and sisters, let us not deceive ourselves. This is only the beginning of the journey. Great opportunities bring great responsibilities. These drones are powerful tools, but they are also symbols of unity. If we fight each other, they lose meaning. If we use them to divide, we betray the very spirit of this moment. But if we use them to defend our people, our resources, our dignity, then they will stand as monuments of freedom. So I say this tonight, let the skies of Burkina Faso remind us of what is possible. Let them remind us that Africa's strength is not found in waiting for permission, but in standing together. This is the lesson of ease leadership. This is the lesson of Africa's awakening. To every young African listening, you are not born into a continent of poverty and despair, you are born into a continent of wealth, courage, and unbroken spirit. The world has told you lies about your worth, but tonight those lies are shattered. If Burkina Faso can rise with vision and courage, so can you. If one small nation can rewrite the rules, so can a generation. And to those outside who still plot, who still scheme, who still believe Africa's destiny is theirs to control, hear these words clearly: the era of plunder is over. The era of manipulation is finished. The era of a weak Africa is gone forever. From this day forward, Africa walks forward with its head high, with its skies defended, and with its people united. This deal is not the end of the story, it is the first chapter of a new one. A story written not in fear but in boldness. A story where our children inherit skies that are safe, lands that are sovereign, and futures that are limitless. So let us go from tonight's announcement not with hesitation, but with conviction. Let us remember that history does not wait for the timid. It belongs to the brave, and Burkina Faso, with Turkey by its side, has shown that Africa is brave enough to claim its rightful place. Brothers and sisters, the hour is late, but the dawn is near. We have witnessed something our ancestors prayed for and our children will celebrate. May this pact stand as a beacon to every nation that dreams of freedom. May it be the stone that begins the avalanche of African Renaissance, and may the world never again underestimate the power of a united, determined Africa. The skies are ours, the future is ours, and Africa forever shall be free.